What's dangerous is when the universe pick you and you put on the magic glasses. There's rules that go with them. You can never take them off. You never see things as they're supposed to be. You see things as they are. And you can never force nobody else to win.
Hey everybody, this is Mike and you're watching the Reelblack podcast. And we have a topic today that's very, very pertinent to the late, great Dick Gregory's observation of magic glasses. And with us, as we always are joined on Saturdays with Jason Clue from the 21 Rules of Blackness and Manny from the 21 Rules of Blackness over across the pond, as they say. Welcome once again.
Thanks for having us again. Yeah, thanks for inviting us back each time. It's always a pleasure to work with you, Mike. You know, we've always been big fans of the show, always been big fans of your work, big fans of your guests. And it's a pleasure just being on, trying to share what we know.
Now, before we jump into it, tell people once again about the book, The 21 Rules of Blackness, so they know where to check it out and get it.
Yeah, so 21 Rules of Blackness is I suppose you could say a self-help book, but I'd rather look at it as a code of conduct for Black people. And it just gives a breakdown of 21 rules, 21 steps, 21 rules, 21 codes, whichever way you want to look at it, of how we as Black people from the diaspora should be able to navigate our way around this society, basically.
I love it. And today's topic
is the movie They Live, which is a personal favorite of mine. I can speak for Manny as well on this one, I think. And I don't know if it's his favorite movie, but I'm pretty sure it's in his top 10, maybe. Yeah, is that correct, Manny?
It's a top ranking film, definitely. I really love that film there.
Yeah. And I first watched this. I think the movie was released, if memory serves, I'm going by memory here, 88 or 89, maybe even 87. Can't remember which one of the three. I didn't see the film probably until I think I probably watched it around. I watched it on VHS. I know that much. So it was. I think it was still probably the 80s, probably 89 when I watched it. And I was very, very young when I saw that film, but just liked it. Yeah, I like the film because it's a good action film. But then when I watched it again as an adult, I saw something totally different than what I saw as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched it again a few years later as a older adult and saw something on top of that. Yeah, so it's like every time you watch it, as you grow, as you learn, as you take things on board, you're going to see different things. I think Roddy Piper said himself, who's the star of the movie, he said the movie is a documentary. He said it's not a movie, it's a documentary. Maybe we could find that clip actually and slot it in somewhere. Yeah, okay. But he said yes, this is documentary because when we were making the film, we weren't making a movie, we were making like it's real. He said it's real. Yeah, that's what he said. And and as I've got older, I've started to realize, okay, yeah, I know exactly what he means. This film is real.
It's real.
Yeah, we see it played out. So we're just going to just talk through the film. Those who haven't seen the film, we're going to try to not put too many spoilers in the film. All right. So we're not going to just go through chapter and verse and tell you every aspect about the film. We're just going to talk about parts of the film that relate to us as Black people. And the challenges we face, because I think this is the kind of film where it really does resonate with a lot of Black people. When I speak to Black people who've watched this film, they see it differently to like the white audience. The white audience see it as a science fiction film a lot of the time, unless they're switched on, they may see it as slightly different. But like Black people of all walks of life, regardless whether they're top of the social ladder or towards the bottom of the social ladder, they see this film and they see it. They don't see it as a science fiction film. They see it as something else. They see it as educational. you know. So he's going to talk through the educational part.
I think it's a prescient movie. It took me a long time to see the movie myself. I worked in a video store, and it was a very popular rental item, and but I'm not a sci-fi person at all. I said before, my cousin watched enough sci-fi for the entire lineage, so I steered away from it. I didn't really know what They Lived was until right before Trump got into office, and
you're kidding me. It was that late.
Yeah. But I instantly fell in love with the film. I was like, wow, this. I mean, I like John Carpenter movies in general. Anyway, but this is one that had bypassed me, and but the moment I saw it, I was like, oh wow, this is so on target. This is so much of today, yet it was made in 88. So yeah, it's a timeless film. It's allegory, it's sci-fi, it's everything. And it's something that if you've never seen it, and it'd be interesting to go through the chat now and pop some things up. But as this is pre-recorded, but I'll be watching this live hopefully, so we'll pop some things up in the chat. And when was the first time you guys saw this movie? And if you've not seen it yet, I encourage you instantly, please check this movie out. But all right, so moving on.
I can see why though, Mike, that it took a long time to watch, because as a movie person, just looking from the outside in, you're seeing Roddy Piper as the main star of the film, and he's a wrestler, it doesn't hold strong, especially when you compare it to other John Carpenter films where you've had like Kurt Russell as the leading man,
Right.
So you're thinking, right, this probably isn't like so you can kind of think, this is probably like a B style movie, or it's not in the same category as his other work. But I'm not sure why he cast Roddy Piper in the role. Maybe you could very easily, when you watch that film, you could very easily see Kurt Russell playing that part as well. But I think Roddy Piper does an absolutely fantastic job. Don't know what you think to that one, Manny. What do you think?
Oh, Manny's muted.
Oh, you're muted, Manny.
Yeah, I think, I see where you're going with Kurt Russell, because you've got that whole, is it Escape from LA and Escape from
New York? Yeah, Escape from New York, and also The Thing. Kurt Russell was in The Thing.
Big Trouble in Little China as well. It lends itself to that kind of.
Yeah, but Carpenter done Thing and Escape from New York.
Okay, so that's the Well, to be fair, Roddy Piper, like I wasn't expecting to see him in that role, but to be honest with you, I don't think anyone else. Well, maybe other people could have done it, but he did what he needed to do.
He did it fantastic, didn't he?
He did it fantastically. I'm surprised we didn't see more of him after that, or maybe that's why we didn't see more of him, because he did it so well.
Yeah, exactly.
Hell Comes to Frogtown. You guys missed that.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing it. I remember seeing the poster, or seeing the VHS.
What was that called?
I never got around to watching Hell Comes to Frogtown. Actually, I haven't watching that.
I'm gonna make a note of that now to see that.
He made some. He continued to make low budget action films with nothing at the same level of box office or artistry as They Live. But rest in peace, Roddy Piper. So
yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, how do you want to dismantle this film? Is this a review or is this a breakdown? Or
it's like I said, we're just going to break down the parts that I think resonate with us. So we'll keep it on topic in terms of like what Bubba Dick was talking about with the glasses theme, without giving too much away about the plot. So let's look at the characters first of all. Yeah. So Roddy Piper, his character's called Nada, which is interesting because he's a drifter. He gets a job as a construction worker, and the name Nada, anyone who knows Spanish, I'm not saying I'm proficient in Spanish, but I know a few bits and pieces. But Nada means nothing in Spanish, right? And it's and his character has no backstory, right? It doesn't say where he's from, doesn't say whether he's got a family. Doesn't really talk about anything like that. Although he does wear a wedding ring, which is interesting. But it doesn't talk. But he has no backstory. It's like he just appears. He just turns up in this LA setting, isn't it? He turns up in LA with his tools and his backpack, looking for some work. Then you've got the other guy, the co-star of the movie, I suppose you'd say, or the supporting actor,
Keith David.
Frank, played by, help me out, Mike. What's the actor's name?
Keith David.
Keith David. That's right, Keith David. Yeah. So we got Keith playing Frank. He's also a construction worker. He meets Roddy Piper. He gets him a job on the construction site, and I think he get talking. He helps him find some work, and they're staying in some kind of like night shelter or something, aren't they? Or some kind of like some kind of down and out kind of like soup kitchen place, because they don't have anywhere to live,
right?
And they become like pals or work colleagues anyway. And I think he's got a family and stuff like that, and I think he's just turned up in LA to try find some work. Then we've got the third character who comes into play in the film a bit later.
Yeah, it's actually Holly.
Yeah, she plays. Oh, yeah, it's got Frank there. Yeah, Holly. Do apologize, Holly.
No worries.
Right. So Holly.
We'll have to cut your pay rate.
And then we got
down there.
Yeah,
Holly,
so
Meg Foster.
Holly. Yeah, Holly is the love interest of Nada, isn't she? He kind of like explain how they get in, how they meet each other, but they meet each other, and she's a media executive, isn't she? And she becomes like the kind of love interest with Nada, right? So we'll talk about the dynamics between the three of them in a moment. But what was your impression of the other two characters, Manny? Like, what do you think of those?
I think, Frank and
Holly,
George Nada.
Oh, Nada,
yeah. I think that was a lovely, that was a nice dynamic, wasn't it? Because it's like the person, unless you educated yourself on what's going on, that's like, that's the person you would either educate, or that's you being educated in it. But he was in the end, he was open to what was going on. It took a lot of beating for him to get there, but he was willing to, once he saw what was real, he was willing to roll with it. In terms of Holly's like that, do you know, innit? Holly's that person, yeah, who, I don't know, like, I don't know if she was ever down with the program, to be honest. I'm not sure if she ever was. She was almost always like an Agent Smith, even when she wasn't. I'd have to watch it again, but I don't know if I was ever truly convinced that, I feel like she likes the steak from the very beginning, and she's happy in her world, and she just kind of liked him. But yeah, she just kind of liked him.
It was a bit of that, but we'll get into that. Yeah, we'll get into that in a moment. Yeah. So then there's this famous scene in the film, where he's in the was he at like a newspaper stand, isn't he? And he's picks up a magazine, starts looking through it. No, he finds the glasses first in a bin, doesn't he? And he just he's rummaging around in there, he's thinking that there's something in there of value, and he just finds these sunglasses, and he puts the sunglasses on because it's LA and it's sunny, and then he notices things start changing, and he basically freaks out, doesn't he? He's like, what the hell is going on? And I think a lot of us, especially the people watching this channel, would have had that same moment where we put on, the like virtual sunglasses, so to speak, or the spiritual sunglasses, or mental sunglasses.
The saying is that we take them off. What's going on with socials, and they consume so much of everybody's time.
This is exactly. And you see it
TV, because you can take that with you. With TV, you just have to get into your house, go to work. Even though work in itself is the plantation, but you get home from work and you turn on the TV, and now you got that phone with you at work, checking your Instagram at work, looking at YouTube clips the whole time. So it's completely, you're getting sold at. And we all know that those apps like Instagram and TikTok, they don't even create revenues from anything but the advertising. It's the advertising where the money is.
Again, which covers the consume part.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is consume. So
I like the thing just in the corner here, Edgar Casey on ESP.
Oh yeah, wicked. I just noticed that. Yeah.
The paperback that's in the background there.
Yeah, top, well, middle right.
It's just a little
Oh yeah.
Easter egg
Edgar,
reference.
what's it?
Edgar Casey on
What's the one underneath it? What's the one underneath it? Because I'm guessing that's probably quite relevant as well.
Two of a kind. I don't know. I'm sure there's a whole essay written about the newsstand scene. We can find out what these books are. But yeah, just interesting. So it turns out that aliens are, well, we're not trying to spoil this, right?
We're not trying to spoil it.
So I won't.
We're not trying to spoil it. But the world's.
But there's a sci-fi element that comes into play.
There is a definite sci-fi element that comes into play.
And this would make a great double bill with The Matrix. So you have Nada and Neo.
I think this. I really and truly, I believe this was the prerequisite to The Matrix. This is your God. I think this was definitely. There must have been some referencing in The Matrix to this, depending on when the lady wrote that script for The Matrix. But I think this.
Well, apparently, she wrote it in like the mid '80s. I actually had a conversation with the lady, Sophia.
Yeah.
We had a long conversation. I just come across her details, and I had a chat. Like, how long ago was that? It was like probably like 7 years ago, and we spoke for about 4 hours on the phone.
So you believed her?
Say again?
You believe that story?
Do I believe it?
Sophia Stewart. She was.
Yeah.
I always feel like whenever there's a big blockbuster hit, there's a big lawsuit. Now, that goes against code for me to say that maybe, she doesn't have much to stand on. But I just remember like people saying, I wrote Thriller, so I'm skeptical when I hear that story.
Well, the thing is, for me, we spoke for like 3-4 hours on the phone, right? She was telling me everything about what she's done. At the end of the call, while I was on the phone, she made me buy a copy of the book, Matrix 4. Yeah, and I did kind of think like, if you're suing Warner Brothers for 100 million, right, and you're telling me that you're winning and things are going well, how can you be so desperate to get my $10? So that did make me think, but I don't know.
Well, that's the popular culture story that a black woman wrote The Matrix and Terminator,
and Terminator as well. She wrote Terminator, but then she said, but apparently, but then I saw the meme going around saying she won. I tried to call her when it was released.
There was no clarification on her winning it. But maybe I'll tell you one thing, that could be another topic for another day, though, for you to tell us what was said, because she must have offered you some kind of real evidence to suggest for you to even support the idea that she wrote that.
Well, I had no reason to disbelieve her, apart from the fact that she seemed that she was, apart from the fact that she was very accessible, and we spoke for that length of time. She was happy to speak to just a random for that length of time.
So do you not believe her anymore then? Or are you not certain anymore? I said, do you not believe her anymore, or are you just not certain?
I'm not saying I don't believe her. I've got no after that conversation.
Yeah.
I wasn't like I say, it wasn't one or the other. The fact that she still sold me.
And to be fair, for those who support her and believe the story, I mean, there's a whole lifetime, generations of stories like this about big corporations stealing ideas, especially from Black people, So I think there's a lot to be said for the fact that her ingenuity may have been the engine behind all these multi-billion-dollar franchises. But
and again, the other thing as well is
that's when and we want to take her side because it's against white supremacy. But I just remember when people were coming after Michael Jackson and saying, I wrote Thriller, and it just seems like whenever something becomes that big, there's always a thread that you can pull. So maybe there is a connection, maybe there isn't. I have not done the full research, but I just sorry to take that on there.
But then did you? But use the same guy who showed me the that video of that guy who wrote all those
Eric
sitcoms. Yeah.
Well, he believes it. That's and
No, but they paid him off.
It's clear he's broke. And Norman Lear just celebrated 100th birthday. You know,
they paid him off though. They paid him some money, didn't they?
They gave him a pittance compared to.
I know it was a pittance compared to what he got, but the fact is they paid him something, which is almost like an admission of guilt.
They paid him some hush money, and then unfortunately he ended up on drugs.
Well, this is what I'm saying. I think if you get those are your crumbs, your breadcrumbs that tell you that there's probably a story. If you got
there's some truth in it. Yeah. They wouldn't be, or else they wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, anyway, so I'll ISO myself real quick. So that was an aside on Sophia Stewart. So if you're watching and you want to come on the show and talk to us about the Matrix and all that, I would love to hear it directly from your mouth and maybe shut me up because I'm willfully ignorant about this whole situation. All right. Okay. So
I'll just say one last thing as well is that she had she didn't sound like the ramblings of a mad woman. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she was very clear.
She's been on other shows on YouTube. I've caught her on other shows, and you know, it's become her fight. So. You know, again, it'd be interesting to have her on as a conversation.
Yeah. Let's try to
watching
get her on.
Somebody knows her and wants to put us together. Let's.
Well, Jason knows it.
Well, I've got her email address, but I sent her an email when Matrix 4, just before when I heard Matrix 4 was being filmed, and I emailed her, but I didn't get a response. So I was going to say, all right, did you getting paid off this kind of thing?
Did you read the book? Did you read the book?
Yeah, I read the book.
Was it any good?
It wasn't a book; it was a script.
So it was.
It was. That's the other thing as well. It was very similar to the one they made.
Wow.
What do you mean? Oh, send it to me. I want to.
It was similar to the one they made.
Send that script to me, bro. I want to see.
Yeah, I've got the PDF. It was very similar to the one they made, and she called it Matrix 4.
Okay.
Wow, just send it to me. I'll have a look at that.
All right. So for a future episode, we'll have to get Sophia Stewart.
Yeah, I've got the PDF. I'll send it across to you. Yeah, so paid for it. Yeah, I've got the PDF. But
okay, so all right, so we showed the magic glasses scene, and
this is just a scene of Times Square, and I just stumbled across this online, and it's interesting because I thought it was kind of funny how they just used the They Live theme for Times Square, and this is basically what Times Square would look like if you was wearing the glasses.
Glasses, yeah.
But when you're there and you're in the middle of it, we've all been Times Square, and this is when you're there. It's so overwhelming, isn't it? The amount of advertisements and consumerism that there is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's it doesn't get more intense than Times Square, does it really? And but what it's really showing you is that, isn't it? It's obey, conform, consume, stay asleep.
Mm-hmm.
In every corner. So I just thought that was interesting.
It's dope. And you got the people in there. I won't ID them, but there are people there that they don't look like the other people, which is kind of dope too. So.
All right. So there's a famous scene in the film, where you've got Frank and Nada. They have a little bit of a disagreement, and Frank has the glasses. Nada has the glasses, and he meets Frank.
And now he's like, "You look at you, pull me into. You dragged me into."
Okay.
Yeah. Well, sometimes ignorance is bliss, isn't it? But
all right. So we're going to argue fair use, and hopefully
this is a nice image.
Clip doesn't get us blocked.
Sorry, say again.
Where'd you get this image from?
I just I found it. It is a nice image.
Yeah. Shout out to the internet. Whoever credit to the person who drew that. It's dope.
What was you saying, Mike?
No, it's just I'm always cautious when we put up clips of movies that they don't get us blocked. So I'm just
Okay.
praying to the
Right.
fair
Yeah,
use
yeah.
gods that that lengthy they live stuff doesn't
Get
get
flagged.
chopped out. But
Yeah.
Maybe because you haven't got the full audio, though, it might not be such a massive. Because sometimes you
they
need
can see
audio.
everything.
Yeah,
They're worse than they live. Like
they
if
are.
it's
They are,
just
you know.
video,
The
they'll
algorithms are crazy now.
it's ridiculous. Yeah. So
But
you know, if you're seeing it, you're seeing it. And shout out to Universal Studios for making the film available. So we've got the magic glasses. They allow us to wake up basically and see the truth. And I think that allegory, it sort of harkens back as far as Invasion of the Body Snatchers in a way, this type of science fiction. But for the 80s and the consumerism, it works. And then when we're stepping into this time period where we're proto-fascists are coming back all across the globe, the Donald Trump administration and all that stuff is going on, it makes the film even more prescient, I think, and again, as you mentioned, the more time passes, the more relevant this movie becomes. So of its time and ahead of its time.
Absolutely, way ahead of its time. This film was. I know a lot of the time they say things are on time, but it was ahead of its time. It is
ahead of its time, especially in the sense that I don't even think you could make a movie like this now. I mean, for the kind of budget that it is, I mean, I don't think this movie would even get made, let alone, well, I don't know, maybe with John Carpenter attached, it would get made, but it's not the kind of movie that gets made regularly today. So we're
no, and I think if they were making this film now, I think the producer would be a little bit hesitant because it touch on a lot of things which are sensitive.
It'd be too much out, too close to reality.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas how they got around it in this one, because like you mentioned, without the spoiler alert, that there is that science fiction theme. That's why they was able to hide behind that that science fiction theme in order to be able to put the truth out there like that. Whereas even now, I think if they're still trying to hide behind the science fiction theme, it'd still be too obvious. Because when you look at it, it's kind of, well, I don't think it's subtle, but obviously at the time they probably thought it was subtle because of the science fiction theme, and the fact that John Carpenter did the thing.
Blatant, it's blatant.
It's very blatant. But I think because of the science fiction theme, it does. Some people can watch it and just not see past that part.
Yeah, I think yes, and I think when you look at it like that, it's probably a lot of stuff that he did quite deliberately, like even casting Roddy Piper, because it has a look on it. Yeah, the film has a look of a comedy. It looks like very colourful. It's not very dark, is it, at all? Even though the topics are very dark.
Yeah, it's always very bright. There's not many scenes even at night time.
Yeah, and then even the aliens, as weird as they look, they're almost comical again. But this is how he's managed to. Do you know what I mean?
To blend the comedy with the sci-fi,
yeah. And then we accept it. And obviously, like there's a saying in my culture: many a true word spoken in jest. So it's it's an easy way of getting it across, and it's an easy way of not having anyone block you. And I think as well, it's not the same. But we watch Get Out. Get Out is a little bit darker, but again, you just don't expect because of the way things are done. Even the way the freaky character, the guy's running at the camera, and he takes a sharp right. He's just, do you know what I mean? You're just baffled by the way things are done. It's not as obviously dark as other things are obviously dark, but yet it's probably one of the darkest things you're ever going to watch.
But then Get Out again did hide behind that element of comedy almost.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly the same thing.
I know a few people who've seen Get Out and just saw it purely as entertainment.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying.
Because it would seem so far-fetched.
And that's what I'm saying. It wasn't exactly the same, but it was done in a similar way. And then actually, when you think about it, in this particular instance, because it was Jordan Peele that did it, and he is also a comedian. And again, you know, you got a lot of satirical comedians, so even his comedy has a political edge to it, and it's quite funny. So he's already mastered the art of giving you a serious situation in a humorous way. Do you know what I mean? So as I say, when I'm looking at many of the things that happen in Get Out, like even when my man was, he comes in and he's lost his mind. He's like, how are you, brother? Do you know what I mean? He's looking at him like, mate, what the hell happened to you? Because we've all got, I know that I've got at least one friend, yeah, who hasn't had their mind stolen, but depending on the circumstances, they're going to act very different in front of people. So obviously, for argument's sake, someone like our friend, you'd have a very different way.
You should put his name out there as well.
Yeah, sorry, you can bleep that out. But you know what I'm saying? It'd be like, you go, yes, how are you? It'd be very, very different depending on the people that he was around. So it was interesting. It was funny. So yeah.
Okay. But yeah, going back to the They Live. Yeah. So it was covered the last slide. And I think Manny touched on this earlier, is that Holly, in the end, she's down for the cause because Frank gets on board once he puts the glasses on, and he's down for whatever. He's like, look, let's get things done. And Holly gives the illusion that she's down. Like she made out she wasn't down. And then when she found out what was going on, she's shown she was down. And then at the end of the film, she then lets you know she's not down. And what Manny was saying earlier was, you never know whether she ever really was down in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a theme in real life, isn't it? Where things like this, even though you know, quote unquote, wake someone up, open their eyes, they still might not want to. It doesn't automatically mean they're going to get on board. You know, they could open their eyes and I'm thinking, yeah, okay, I can see what's going on, but you know what? I'm still going to do what I'm doing because going down that path is going to be more difficult, more challenging, more disruptive to my life. Yeah, so let me just keep the status quo exactly how it is, you know. And then she's that character, isn't she?
She basically is. This is what I say, that even though allegedly Matrix was written first, this is my man who asks, what's his name? Who asks to get back, Cypher, who has to go back in him. That's who that is. Because for her, she's got a career, and if she's thought about this logically, yeah, she's thinking, I've been in this Matrix for some time, and I'm succeeding in it. I've got a nice apartment, I've got a good job, I've got nice clothes. Do you know what I mean? And actually, there was nothing going to change the trajectory of what was happening. I was on a great trajectory. I'm going to stay on it. So after giving it some thought, she's probably just said, you know what? I'm going to stay on the winning side, or what she perceives is the winning side. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I think the majority of the time, or what we're taught in the media is, yeah, the people who are fighting against the existing power are the rebels, aren't they? And she doesn't want to be a rebel. She wants to be a part of the mainstream. So this is what, again, why potentially she was never really on side. She was always making her mind up, but she was always going to choose to.
Yeah. It's a lot easier in life, isn't it? It's a lot easier in life to become a rebel if you're already at the bottom of the social ladder. Yeah. So you've got nothing to lose. And whereas if you're at the top, you're on the top of the social ladder, and they're saying, yeah, come on, let's come and fight and pick this up. You're thinking, why? Yeah.
Think about it. Rebel, bottom of the social ladder, nothing to lose, everything to gain. Someone towards the top, yeah, has got everything to lose. And as far as they're concerned, in the material world, nothing to gain, because fighting means you end up like Sarah Connor, doesn't it? In a white vest with muscles and an AK-47 on your back. Yeah, looking out for whoever it is you're looking out for, and always trying to dodge the authorities. So she was always going to lose. This for her was a smart move, I suppose.
So speak to that, Jason. So how does this movie relate to Black audiences differently than it does a mainstream audience?
Well, what obviously I can't speak for every single Black person in the whole world, but I can speak for my own Black experience. And
And I should say traditionally mainstream audience, because 100 years from now, it's gonna be a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, what I've found is as Black people, we've always been a little bit more cynical. I think when it comes to like mainstream media and what we're told, because we usually have an idea what's not true. So we're watching the news, and it's something's being reported, and we know it's different. Like that didn't happen like that because someone's told us, so we know someone, or it could be reporting about something to do with us. Yeah, right. We know it's not true. We know it's a lie. Does that make sense? Yeah. So then and that happens very early on. So then we become cynical going forward. You're thinking, well, we know they lie because they've told us. They said this happened. They said that happened. They said, and we saw it with our own eyes that it didn't happen like that. And we just watched them report it totally different. Right. So immediately we have that cynicism. Right. Whereas if you are very far away from that world, whenever you watch the news, right, it's reported and you can accept it because you are so far away from ground zero where the things are actually taking place. You just believe it. Right. So then you don't have that same cynicism, right, as the Black person does. That makes sense. So then if you really know that they lie about ABC, when they report on D, E, F, you're gonna have the same outlook, aren't you? Thinking, well, if they lied about ABC, then why aren't they lying about D, E, and F, and why aren't they lying about G, J, K,
to support that, because it's the same thing with that woman, isn't it? What I've come to realize in my encounters with different people from different social classes, you can explain to them situations, you can show them the evidence of the situation, and they themselves will see the evidence of the situation. But what it is I've noticed with some of them, is they don't want to, it's an inconvenient truth, because if they accept that truth and understand their status and how they've got their status, it means that if they are the kind of decent person that they would purport to be or say that they are, they would really have to do something because they're in a position to do something. Do you know what I mean? Someone who's towards the middle or upper end of the social class scale has got more power and more of a voice to do something than someone who's at the bottom. If they accept that they've profited off maybe some kind of immoral gains, or the industry that they're in is whatever, then they stand to lose by standing up and fighting. So looking at it from what's her name, Miss Thompson's point of view in the film, she is a news reporter, right?
Yes, some kind of media. That's a
pretty, especially in this particular setup, it's a pretty significant job to have. And actually, when you think about it, that's where they're well, I can't give anything away, but she's a news reporter, and obviously we all know that the news is where a lot of propaganda is dispersed. So she knows that this is my bread and butter, and as much as I now know that we're spouting lies, what am I going to do? Do you know what I mean? So a lot of people, we say they're far removed and they don't know. Even when they do know, they make a decision and say, you know what? I've still got to put food on the table. I've got this house to pay for. I've got private school to pay for, and I'm going to roll with it. It's not that they're always it's a lot of the times that they're far removed, or it starts out as they're far removed. But for those that do the work, or for those that might talk to you, or that might talk to me, and we sit down and take the time to explain to them what's going on and give them chapter and verse of real situations, and they still can't, it's because it's an inconvenient truth, and they know what it is, but they know they can't. They're not going to deliberately go down in the social scale to do the right thing. They're just not going to do that.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like if I believe what this person's saying, even though he's completely explained everything chapter and verse, it's going to affect my life in such a way that I'm not, in a way that I'm not willing to change. So therefore, it's better if I just dismiss what he's saying as the ramblings of a madman. Exactly. It's or the other term which is often used in those scenarios is cognitive dissonance. I think that's the term, isn't it? When everything's there in front of you and you're still like, nah, I don't believe it.
Exactly. Cognitive dissonance, exactly what it is. A great word as well. But yeah, that's what it is.
Right.
So that's I think that brings us to the end of that. Like I say, we didn't want to go into the spoilers and the plot of the film and everything else because
even though the movie is 30 years old, we don't want to spoil it for anybody.
Crazy, 30 years old.
Because if you haven't seen it, yeah, I would not want to take that away from the pleasure you'll receive by us giving all these spoilers, because it is a very enjoyable film.
I want to say, sorry to cut you. I want to say, yeah, I think the film is a stroke of genius. That's what I want to say, because he made a great piece of film, yeah. And aside from the effects that there wasn't much. Like now we've got great like Terminator and all these other films that we might reference, and Matrix and that. They've got a lot going on. Yeah, they deliver the message, but they've got a lot going on. You got people flying, you got people doing bullet time, all of this type of stuff. This, you ain't got none of that, yeah. And it delivers the message just as well.
It didn't need it either. If you put that stuff in,
exactly.
You could if you remade that film now, you could remake that film and you wouldn't have to change anything.
Nothing.
Like in terms of like, let's put in some CGI, let's put in this, let's put in that. Because what really would you change? I suppose you could make the budgets a bit bigger, so you'd have I don't know, bigger film sets, or close off more streets or something.
You literally could make it today, because the homeless situation in LA is worse, if it's not the same, it's far worse than it was in 1988.
But did they exaggerate it in that film? Or was it actually like that? I think they exaggerated it in the film.
Oh, it's exaggerated in the film. I mean, there was a homeless problem.
But they've got them now, though, isn't it? I've seen places like
it looks like that now. Yeah, they exaggerated
in the late 80s as a homeless problem, and it's come back.
Was it like
Los
that?
Angeles, so.
I thought they exaggerated in the film because it was set kind of in a distant
future. It's dystopian setting in the film, but
that's how it looks now.
Mike, you might know, yeah, because obviously I've seen recently. There's a place, I think it's in Vegas, yeah, where you've got, I don't know what the people are on, but they look like zombies. Yeah. So I'm wondering, did that place exist then, at least? Because when you're making a film, yeah, even though LA may not have been like that, you've got creative license to look at the worst place you've ever seen anywhere and just decide that it's there, because there is. Do you know what I mean? So I'm wondering, was Vegas like that?
I think in the movie, they project the homeless situation sort of like Hooverville camps, like back in the Great Depression.
Okay.
They sort of updated that idea.
Okay.
But it actually has become sort of like that, where they have camps and camps of people that are homeless living in tents in Los Angeles. It's quite bad. I haven't been out to LA since 2019, but it was bad then, and my understanding it's gotten worse. As
I think we'll find that give the people a clip in it. Maybe give them a side by side of what it was then and what it is now, so they can see like it's not too far from. But
I think it's almost too close to reality. I mean, how do you make it unreal? They live if you did it in 2022, 2023.
I'd actually like to. You know what? I'm not really one for remakes, but I actually would like to see that by a flipping. By a director and a script writer that are critically, even like, Jordan Peele. I'd like to see him, if he was going to remake a film, he'd be the guy to remake They Live, I believe.
You don't say it too loud. He might be listening. He's the new one is very Spielbergian.
I'm looking forward to that. We're going to go watch that on Sunday. Woo!
Nope.
Sunday, baby.
Yeah, he grabs a lot of 80s sci-fi into his work. So something tells me that They Live is not that far off for Jordan Peele.
I'm there for it, 100%.
Yeah, I'm of the ilk where I think classics are better just left.
Nothing gets left anymore, my brother. Let's be honest. Nothing gets left.
Just remake everything, don't they? But I think the thing is with that, I don't think you can improve. I don't want to say it's a perfect film, but it's like I don't think you can improve on a film like that, unless you.
What film here? Because I know that we've recently seen a film, right, that has been made right? It's a remake, but it doesn't detract from what was done before. But it also is great standalone. I can't remember what it is. I'm sure you've seen one. I think it can be done.
RoboCop.
Nah, bro, come on, please, no.
I don't-
RoboCop was no one
I
even
can't
remembers
think. I
that.
can't think
Nobody
of
even
any
remembers
remake.
the new
I can't
Robo.
think.
No one
I
even
can't
remembers
think of
the
any
new
remake.
RoboCop.
I can't think of
It's
any
tough.
remake.
Because I think the justification nowadays for remakes is to introduce the franchise to a new audience.
And it needs to be. In all honesty, it does. This is the thing, you see. It does need to be reintroduced to a new audience. It does. But I'm gonna like let my youngers watch it. But I know I'm trying to sit with them sometimes because of the way it looks and that they won't. They're not ready to absorb that yet. They've got to get to a certain age, so it needs to be done in a way where at least the visuals get them. And that's what really amazed me about this film. So I'll be honest. At the time when I'm watching it, those visuals still we'd moved on beyond the way that looked. Do you know what I mean? So watching it, it was great because looking at it, thinking, well, what are you really going to show? What can you do for me? This film, like looking like this,
it would be difficult because I mean, there's the slant towards reinvention now is for diversity. So they would probably put a lot more diverse characters, non-traditional casting in the piece, and I think that would mess up the stew.
It would mess it up unless the person who was going to do it was really willing to go there, because there's an argument to say that, like, yeah, you know what, just leave it there. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, Mike.
I what was I just watching, and I said, wow, this is it's good, but it's just the non-traditional casting is getting in the way of the story, so it's sort of like every color of the rainbow has to be represented in
every gender has to be represented as well. But this is why I think someone like Peele, because he's uncompromising. He said
oh, that's exactly what it was. It was he had everybody in the movie, and I think it's good, but at the same time it's sort of hey, wish fulfillment can become prophecy. So who knows?
Have you seen this film?
What
Have you seen though?
Will be
it was released in the US before.
Now about
it was released a week earlier, 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah, it came out here 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
All I'm going to ask you is that I'm going to watch it anyway, regardless of what you say. But did you think it was good or not?
Well, you talk about compared to Get Out, it's a masterpiece, and nothing's going to top that. But I will say, I think what Jordan Peele does well is visual stuff. Like, and us, he had some really cool visuals, and this one there's some really cool visuals. I don't know if the story holds together completely for me, but it leaves a lot of room for people to be talking, and I haven't heard people talk this much about a movie since Night Shyamalan, when he was making his run, after Sixth Sense, trying to make sense out of stuff. And it's like, so it's like, if you want to put on the Jordan Peele glasses and say, wow, this guy's a genius, wow, who knew? You could do that, or you could just completely dismiss it as saying, okay, this is not fully developed ideas, but visually it stimulates me to the point where it feels like a movie, so which is a problem. Not Jordan Peele is not the only person that has a problem. I think a lot of American films are like that now, where it's all about stimulating set pieces and pacing a film. So and with these cameras, everything feels like a movie anyway. So where I personally have problems with movies is they lack story. That's why a movie like They Live holds up 30 something years later. We can still be talking about it because the story is so tight, and we're forgiving of the visuals, but now everything is visual, so
the story, the plot, the pace, it was just all there, wasn't it? It moved at the right time. There wasn't any slow bits. It was like, with They Live.
It's a tight movie.
It's just very, very tight. Yeah, it's very tight.
It bears repeat viewing, like you said. It's something that I'll watch every couple years.
Yeah, and still enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess we shouldn't fail to mention also it's sort of at the tail end of that black and white buddy picture trend, after Lethal Weapon.
Oh yeah.
So that's another thing that makes this movie kind of work. And
it's got the black and white dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have that as much anymore. Well, with Kevin Hart, you have.
No, you actually don't, do you? But you know why that is as well, because everything, it's a political landscape. So ultimately now you're seeing other connections and other combinations because economically there are other alliances that are happening. So it's reflected in the films, basically.
You don't need the because the black and white buddy thing worked in the 80s because usually they were very different. And that's what made it so. And then throughout the film, they realize that they've got more in common than they have not in common. I think that's the common theme. Whereas now, because of like urban culture, the US is similar as well. With urban culture, black guys and white guys are all like the same things. So when you put them, so you can't have it's very difficult to have them so far apart because they both listen to the same music. They're both wearing the same Jordans. You know what I mean? They're both, they're both liking the same type of women. What
you might argue is, and this is the thing, and this is why I say other cultures now, because they're different, they've got their own identity. But that is the thing of Obey, where it says no individualism is one of the they use a different word, but that's one of the posters in They Live, or conform. So everybody now is conforming. So the culture, the UK culture, is almost like, it's not, what I'm just going to say is hip hop, isn't it? For anyone who's young coming up here, that's the culture. It's just hip hop culture, no matter what color you are in the UK. Do you know what I mean? So it's
they call it urban. They call it urban culture.
They call it urban. Yeah, so they call it urban. Now, when you look at, for argument's sake, even though other cultures have adopted part of that urban culture, so let's just use, for argument's sake, East Asia. They've adopted part of that urban culture, but they also have a very individual culture, which is why you'll see more of these partnerships, because there is a difference. And now the bridges have got to be built between the West and Asia because of the economic landscape, with situations like Korea and also Russia and China's stance in Russia. So in terms of the media, we're reminded that we're still trying. We've got stuff in common because it's to their benefit. But our role in all of this bigger picture has almost been fulfilled. So they don't need to make those types of films. They've done what they needed to do. They had a barrage of those films. You know what I mean? And psychologically, it's had the effect that it needed to have on the black and white dynamic, basically, psychologically. Does it mean anything in the real world? I don't know, because we talk about reparations and their own reparations.
Do you think that it's time to bring that trope back, the black and white buddy picture back? Can it be reinvented?
Listen, it can come back here because I think you could do it and it'll be fun because it's just fun because it's fun. Do you know what I mean? But the people who would do it, like, I think they'd wonder, like, what's the benefit now? But I think if you do it differently, and from the outset, I'm trying to think if I've seen a film more recently where it can work, because now you've got, like, for argument's sake, in the UK you've got an internet guy called KSI, and in America you've got Jake Paul and his brother. I don't know what his brother's name is.
Logan Paul is the KSI's rival.
Now Logan Paul and KSI, they've had a boxing match. They've now got a drink, an energy drink together, and it's worth hundreds of millions. Yeah, the body flick is a different flick now. It's not the same flick. Do you know what I mean? They're multi-millionaires together. Do you know what I mean? And that is what the body flick of the 80s. That's the effect the body flick of the 80s had on today's youth, basically, because we grew up seeing these partnerships. Yeah, so it became less of a thing to us. So then when you've got
the thing is with that buddy flick of the 80s, though, a lot of the time the black guy ended up giving his life for the white guy.
Well, hold on. Maybe, I'm not even going to say maybe. I know that in part, that was definitely the case sometimes. But then with a lot of body flicks, I'm guessing you could probably look and say nobody died because they had that feel good factor.
Well, I'd say,
you know what I mean?
The quintessential would be like a 48 hours or
everyone in the end, everyone's laughing like the end of a He-Man cartoon. where everyone has a hearty laugh, their chest is bouncing up and
I
down.
suppose if you're talking about the buddy flick where they have equal billing, you're talking about that
Yeah.
kind of buddy flick.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. I don't know if we ever really have equal billing. I don't know if we do. It's always going to be slightly, because again, what they're going to say is, this was another thing with the buddy flick, which why it took so long for Baby a Black Panther to come out, yeah? They knew that people loved the dynamic, yeah? What they weren't sure of is whether a black lead or more time with a black character would carry it as much as more. And I'll give you an example, yeah? When you look at something like, remember, we've gone through the whole buddy flick phase. So when it came to a buddy flick of our time, yeah, where they didn't have to do that thing where you give the white lead majority time on the screen or whatever, or the best plot lines and everything else, was Miami Vice with Colin Farrell and Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx and Colin Farrell are both massive actors, yeah. Jamie Foxx was smashing it in those days. So was Colin Farrell. I don't know if you could argue who was the bigger actor, but I can tell you who the main focus was in the film. Do you know what I mean? They both had a hot chick apiece. Yeah, Colin Farrell. They both had a hot chick, but Jamie Foxx gave his missus 2 minutes of the best sex of her life. Yeah, and it was cut. But when it came to Colin Farrell, and again, that was the beginning. Again, sometimes you got to look beyond the veil of things. That was the beginning of them telling you what was coming next. Because Colin Farrell's missus was East Asian. Bottom line, yeah. Asia's economy is rising. It's going to be, it's testing to be the underpinning currency of the world. Do you know what I mean? So they put her in that role. Previously, in the 80s, she might have been a black woman, quite simply, or at least a Hispanic woman. That was the next thing.
Well,
but again, sorry, what did you say, Mike?
No, that's the thing. I mean, these movies are global, so they play worldwide in different languages, dubbing and all that stuff. So,
Schwarzenegger, most of his films in the 80s always had a non-white woman.
Women in roles, because they'll dub those characters in Spanish, and people will read that as a Spanish or Latina.
And Spanish is the most spoken language.
Asian, like in Nope, you have a big Asian character in there.
Makes sense. It makes sense now because
listen, it's globally. Yeah,
it's global.
And very little dialogue.
This is going back to what Michael was saying. How it's difficult to make a film like They Live Now because they're trying to please everybody. So they're trying to put everybody in the film, and then what happens is you can't make the film how you want to make it because you got too many stipulations to meet. Yeah, so you got to make sure there's that character in there. You got to have a disabled character. You have to have a LGBT character. You have to have the black character. You have to have the white character. You have to have the what I mean?
Yeah. So
you have to have all the different things.
United, how they
metaverse.
Do that?
Okay, so final thoughts on They Live.
Final thoughts on They Live is that every black person needs to watch it. It should be compulsory because I really think it does resonate with us, and it's the kind of thing that we need to pay attention to. That things aren't what they seem, and we can't walk around believing everything on face value because I personally believe that everything is upside down in reverse. Nothing is what you see, and I think They Live just beautifully kind of like portrays that in film, in such a simple way. Because if you try to explain that to someone, if you try to explain the concept of They Live in terms of like, yeah, the world isn't actually what you see and we're lied to, and you wouldn't be able to do it in 90 minutes. Whereas that film, you can put someone in front of that film, watch it in 90 minutes, and they'll be like, oh, you know what? I get what you were saying now. Yeah, after watching that film, you can explain your point of view to them in 2 minutes after them watching that film, whereas it would take you months, years, maybe, to be able to for them to understand what you're trying to say to them. And that's my final thoughts on They Live.
My final thoughts, as I already said, I think it's a stroke of genius, and I would say it is a seminal film that has led to films of the same ilk, such as V for Vendetta, The Matrix, and born of. So it didn't inspire, but was born of things like 1984. Do you know what I mean? The book, and I think they've even got a movie about it.
Yeah,
as well.
the movie with John Hurt plays.
Right, John Hurt. Right. Yeah. So I think that it's one of those ones. It's a seminal. You've got to watch that movie. Yeah. Not in order to understand those other ones, but it has its place next to those. So yeah, it's a must. For me, it's a must see. And anyone that is interested in a specific genre, and even if they're not interested in that genre, it's almost like watching that film. If somebody has started to do research into just things, that film will make you want to put the glasses on to dig deeper. Or if we're talking about having scales over your eyes, it will make you want to remove the scales. So the film is actually for anybody who wants to know, who wants answers, who's not afraid of questioning the status quo or doing their own research and looking into things, basically, and not just taking everything at face value. So great film.
I agree. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of the Reelblack podcast. And God willing, we'll be back in another couple of weeks, and we'll check out your comments. And thank you for being part. Thanks to everybody who's in the chat for being a part of the chat. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks.
Hoorah.
Oh.